Hello, everybody. Welcome back. YouTube.com/Geek Aloud. It's 8 p.m.-ish on a Tuesday night, so you know we're here with the Gaming Enforcement Agency. And Steve, of course, is with me on Discord. Steve, sir, are you on duty, my friend?
I am on duty. Time is relative. It's 8 o'clock somewhere in the world, so stuff ya.
On duty it is! Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, as we always do, we will start with game interrogation and deliberation. We'll roll through 6 games or 5 games and 1 TV show for you. Then we'll pop on into what happens next. I think it's the news, is it, Steve? Yeah, it's the news segment. We'll go through the news, bring you the light news stories that there are this week, and then the game releases for this week, of course, from Game Informer. Then we jump on into the standoff. And Steve, I know you've been working hard to round up some trailers for us this week. What is standing off, sir?
Mate, today we've got games that were way better than we expected them to be, Troy.
Oh, yes, nice one. In the chat, sing them out. What games were better than you expected? Let us know, and we'll round them up, of course, in segment 4, which is the audience interrogation. But as we always do, let us go straight to game interrogation and deliberation. The first one this week is Trek to Yomi. Steve, Trek to Yomi. Now, I was able to install it. It's available on the channel. It was about 7.5 gig on the Xbox Series X because it was included in Game Pass. Steve, have you checked it out? And what did you think?
I have. I've hit the main title screen and just a bit beyond that. So that's probably maybe 20, 25 minutes-ish in. So, so far, so good. The presentation of the game is impeccable. I really like the sort of black and white sort of aesthetic that it's got going on. I think the graphics themselves and with like the setting being the sort of this Japanese sort of folklore story that we're getting. And I think the music backs that up as well. I think from sound and graphics, this game really delivers, especially for a 2.5D style game in this vein. I think the only thing that kind of lets it down is a bit of the combat. The combat is kind of one note-ish at the moment. Like I'm not sure. I have just unlocked a combo move, but I don't think it's going to in the way the game plays. But for me, something this simple, I'm enjoying it for sort of what it is in terms of the story it's telling, and like it's not trying to be like a Limbo where you're solving puzzles and stuff like that, which people will probably draw the comparisons with its obviously its black and white aesthetic.
Yes.
Shot, like it's very cinematic. I really like the way they use camera angles in this game. The music sort of swells and ebbs and flows with the action on screen at the time. So, no, it's a very pretty and beautiful game. I just don't know if the gameplay holds up to the looks of the game at the moment. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a little bit odd in the way that, I don't know if you've been noticing, man, but it can really suffer some frame rate drops. It seems really odd to me on some of the...
Yeah, I have had some stutters here and there. Initially, I thought it was running pretty smooth, and I jumped back in, obviously on the Xbox with the quick resume, and I thought maybe it was because it was in sort of some kind of save state thing where that's just caused the issues. But I've reloaded the game, and since then still had some frame rate stutters. So I'm not sure what that's about, because yes, it's graphically impressive when it comes to what it's doing with the lighting and stuff with just the black and white stuff, but I wouldn't have thought it's, should be dropping frames for a game that's, essentially 2.5D, has a lot of set camera, similar to like your old school like Resident Evil games.
Yeah, it is odd. And sorry, Steve, I'll just let you know, mate, we're just getting a bit of dropout on your Discord audio this evening. So I'm missing a couple of words here and there. I apologise if I missed something critical at some point. But yeah, it does seem to be more so on the open field ones. I think it must be to do with when they've got a very deep depth of field. I think maybe they're not handling like the fog effects or maybe flame effects in a very deep scene. I think maybe there could be some optimization done there to stuff off in the background, maybe lower that priority a bit and free up the CPU or GPU for a bit more frames in the foreground would go a long way to help. And to your point about the combo, mate, I'm about, I think it was about 35 minutes for me. I finished all of chapter 1 and just turned it off there. Finished chapter 1. It was a nice sort of one chapter, just over 35 minutes, I think, maybe 37 to get through that chapter 1. I'm playing it on easy mode because I wanted to see the story, but to your point, mate, that combat is very limited, and and honestly, it was from playing Sifu that I was a bit intimidated and thought, I'll start it on easy because of Sifu, and totally unnecessary for this for this title. But to your point, mate, a very good story. You're right, that Japanese folklore, and it did very much take me back and remind me of both Sifu and the Legends update, Ghost of Tsushima. Thank you very much. That's what I was searching for. I was reminded of both of those games. So very enjoyable, and they're building on it's almost a modern theme, I think you could assert, in gaming at the minute. As I said, I was playing it on easy here, so it does look a little bit too easy. This was the first sort of boss fight. I really dug the way you cut his nose clean off his face here, and then they represent it when it comes back. I thought that was really brilliant. I haven't seen sort of just gory, but the black and white enables it not to be too full on, I think. So it's an enjoyable ride. I love this. I put it right up there for me with the gunk. I know I sort of played it a bit last year, went off it, but then I went and finished it over the Easter break. And this, to me, is reminding me of that. Like, it's a game that is taking some inspiration from AAA games, but then, you know, done in a much more an indie sense. It's lower budget, less people, but if you accept it for what it is, that it's not this AAA game that, you know, frame rate issues and more limited combos and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But for that, if you're in it for that sort of gentle story, I think this is an absolute win for Game Pass. If you're a Game Pass owner, you definitely need to check this game out. Well worth the 7.5 gig download. Obviously, there are better games that do it better, as we're alluding to. Sifu does the sort of hand-to-hand combat better, and Ghost of Tsushima does the story, obviously, just in more depth than AAA, huge budget. It's a little bit unfair to compare them, but from like an entry to Game Pass, and if you're looking for this flavor, this is brilliant. As I said, it was just under sort of 40 minutes for chapter 1, assuming the same thing, and there's 6 chapters, I believe, all up. It's very much a game I think you could knock over in a weekend if you got Game Pass, and an enjoyable ride is there waiting for it. As I said, I've only played chapter 1, but it's enough there. I'm keen to get back into it, and even though we mentioned there's sort of that degraded frame rate from time to time, it's not prevalent at all. It's just from time to time, but I wouldn't even let that stop me. I wouldn't even wait for the patch. I think there's enough there that if you've got a quiet weekend coming up in Game Pass, I think everyone should check this out who's into, obviously, 2D fighters. And I should mention, there are collectibles, which I enjoyed running around collecting every sort of collectible. They're very simple. It's no, Nathan Drake. It's not like there's 100 hidden treasures or anything. There's only a few. But an enjoyable little part of it.
They are sort of off the beat. They are kind of off the beaten path. Like you've got these levels that are, they're very linear, but like if you don't go left, you just keep going right, then you may miss out on like an upgrade for your stamina or something like that. So it's worth exploring those areas. It's just the way they frame those areas is really cool. It just feels like every sort of scene falling through or going through kind of feels like a piece of art. Just the way it's shot.
Yes.
And I love how sometimes you can just be literally on that one plane of left to right, and then you walk into the next sort of scene per se, and then all of a sudden you're kind of in a 3D plane walking around more. Like I think they play with that really nicely, and it does sort of change it up just enough that it doesn't quite feel one note. And just for a 2.5D game, I just think the presentation and story and the way they tell it is very cinematic for a game of this kind of type.
Yes, I agree completely, mate. I was just going to say that with the sort of 2.5D, and they do change it just as you were saying there from scene to scene. There have been a couple of times where I've sort of lost the thread, and like there isn't, and it's just one of those things. It's like if it was QA tested, the way a AAA game would be, there would be none of these rough edges. So I very much accept that this is sort of part of a limited budget, but I have been able, just the change of perspective and going from very much a 2D orientation to using the thumbstick and being full 3D, occasionally I can get lost and be a little bit confused. Where is my character meant to be headed in this scene? But it's nothing. It's a minor gripe. It's fine. It's very enjoyable, I think. A good game, well worth checking out. And just one question I've got for you, Steve. Trek to Yomi. Now, I am terrible with subtitles, believe it or not. I find it hard to both read and look at something on screen at the same time. And so my question is Yomi, from what I vaguely understood, is that a synonym, if you will, for the afterlife?
I don't know. I'm thinking that's what the case is, and it's hard as well with the game. Obviously, there is no English audio option. It is.
I went looking for that. Yeah, it would be like the way I love Ghostwire. Like I would not have enjoyed Ghostwire at all if I didn't follow the story. If they didn't have the English audio option, I would not have been able to follow the story in Ghostwire, and it would not have engaged me at all. And this game, for me, for someone with my particularities, this game would help a lot if there was English audio. I accept that there isn't, and that's fine. I'm still going to play through it. But as for the narrative, I'm a little bit lost, and I'm not sure where they're trekking to or why they're trekking there.
They're trekking to Yomi.
Yes, but where is Yomi and why are they going? I'm not sure.
No, that is true. The subtitles are quite small. I haven't gone to see if there's an option to make them bigger, but they are quite small. When it's white font with a background, I get lost in that background as well. So
yes,
I think like maybe give us an option to turn them yellow or something like that, especially for people that might be a little bit like impaired when it comes to their sight. It might be a bit hard to read that. And yeah, even an option to have English voice acting, like just options. I know they're going for an authentic Japanese feel, and that's sort of what the game's all about. But I mean, you could choose to play the game like this, or you could choose to play English. Just give people options. I mean, again, I understand where they're going with it, but it'd just be nice to have that option.
Right, and now that you've got me thinking about it, Steve, we're talking about options. Do you think this game was created like in the 3D model level as black and white art assets, or do you think they've just applied a black and white filter, in which case I would love the option to flick the black and white filter off and just have it in full colour?
No, I reckon looking at it, just the way it's sort of shot, I don't think there's a coloured game. I reckon they've shot it literally black and white, because you see particle effects and all that stuff. I mean, the way the lighting works and white, I find it hard to believe they didn't create this just like this. But that also being said, I mean, Ghost of Tsushima, a much grander game, does the exact same thing and looks just as good as black and white. So again, this is a small indie developer we're talking about. So I don't know if they've got the budget or anything to do that. So I think this game purely was designed like this. So.
Well, just that it was on budget, it made me think, did they just build the game and then apply the black and white filter at the end? And I'm like, oh, that's the case. Give me the toggle option. If I were given a budget and a wish list,
probably cheaper not to go with colour.
It would be. My two changes would be give me audio in English and give me a coloured option, and I would be tickled down to the ground. I'd love to just see some big red blood splatters across the screen from time to time.
I was going to say that I'd like to see this black and white, but just make all the blood red. I reckon that would be really cool.
Yep, that would be cool as well. I dig it. But anyway, Trek to Yomi, which could very well be Trek to the Afterlife or Journey to Death, maybe. I'm trying to think of alternate titles that would make more sense to me. Journey to the Afterlife. Maybe.
Trek to Yoshi? Maybe he's looking for Mario and Yoshi? I don't know.
You get to the end and it's just Yoshi with your princess is in another castle. All right, game 2 this week. Of course, last week we talked all about, WWE 2K22. Unfortunately, they gave us the old copyright banhammer big strike on the channel. So instead of showing any footage, I've gone with the thumbnail and just hopefully put enough disclaimer over it so people know it's not ours. And we're just using it for reference when we refer to the game. Steve, what have been your adventures this week with WWE 2K22?
Yeah, so this week I started off my own campaign as myself, did create my own character, and I've been working through the storyline as myself, which has been quite cool, and I've managed to create my own persona and name, which has been quite fun, as being Sergeant Steve P in the video game.
Very cool.
Art imitating life, so to speak.
Nice one.
And that's been fun. So I managed to, there's a storyline going on, and he's like, you apparently have to imagine yourself fighting Hulk Hogan. So you go into this like old school match against Hulk Hogan, and the screen itself becomes like an old VHS or old TV version of a wrestling game. It's got this filter over the top, so it's like you're back in the olden days, which is really cool. And then I beat Hulk that match, which was, I didn't expect it, because the guy is huge compared to my character, which is probably just like real life. And then I had a 3-way match. It was a handicap match. It was just me versus The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. I managed to win that. Don't ask me how. With
skill, that's the answer.
With a 3 count on The Rock. I was very happy with myself with that one as well.
Yeah.
My little fella didn't enjoy it when I showed him the video. He straight away was like, "Daddy, is that you?" I'm like, "Yeah, I bet it is." This is the only way I'm ever going to fight those guys or win a match in real life. There's no way that will ever happen. So I'll take it. But the thing that really caught my eye this week playing it was the campaign mode, where the main character in this game, obviously you can see by all the cover art, is Rey Mysterio Jr.
Is that who's on there? I can only just see the word copyright everywhere.
Yeah, I just got right. Yeah, we've played as Copyright Junior, and I always loved Rey Mysterio as a character. Playing all the Nintendo 64 games, so he's one of my go-tos because he's the high flyer who jumps off the top of the ropes all the time and does all these awesome moves. So this campaign sort of was already speaking to me there, but I never played the 2K campaign games, and I know they always try to select characters to focus on. And it's been really cool. It starts off kind of like a documentary where it's actually got real life Rey Mysterio talking about these wrestling fights as if they're real, because wrestling is hashtag real. About these and going back in time, and then what they do is they put you in those matches with say Rey Mysterio and Eddie, and he's commentating at the top as you're playing about certain moments in the wrestling, and you have to try and pull off certain moves they give you during the match, like these requests. It's like you need to, have him, hit him with 3 light strikes or high thing off a rope or he charge attack over a rope. And some of them are pretty hard to pull off. But when you do pull them off, they'll cut to the actual wrestling match and then like phase out your move into the actual wrestling footage.
Right.
And it's seamless. It like goes straight from whatever you're doing into that wrestling match. And then they'll come back so once they go back, from that sort of actual footage, it'll cut back into you wrestling again. And it's seamless between real life match and then you playing. So it's a really great system the way they do it. Yeah, it's awesome fun. And you don't have to do all of them, but I was trying to do every sort of task and like for me to do in the match because you need more rewards and outfit wrestlers and stuff for doing that during those matches. And then at the end of it, it's still commentated by Rey Mysterio, and he's taking you through his whole journey of his wrestling career. And so far, I've just found it really enjoyable, and it's just a fun, different experience within this game. Of where I've already had so much fun just creating my own characters, playing exhibition matches, playing these matches, playing myself, and now just playing through this story mode. It's really cool. And then they obviously went through the whole Eddie Guerrero dying in real life. And it sort of made me even jump on my phone and start looking up. I didn't realize he had died, and sort of checking out.
Oh wow! Okay.
I got on the rabbit trail. Then of like, what other wrestlers have died in the ring? Then I forgot about incidents where people had come. I can't remember his name. He'd come down from the top area of the stadium, and his harness broke, and he dropped to his death as well. There's all these weird wrestling. I won't go too morbid with it, but it's just I don't know. I didn't expect a game like this to be sort of to hook me the way it has. It's just a wrestling game, and again, like I said last week, it's sort of taking me back to my childhood of playing Nintendo 64 wrestling games, and I'm having lots of fun with it. And that's what games are for, is to have fun.
Absolutely, man. And obviously we would love to have shown you more footage, but we didn't want the WWE to slap us around too much. So we'll wrap it up there, I reckon, for WWE. And we'll move on to Game 3, which is, of course, Halo Infinite Season 2. Now, Steve, I'll give you a little heads up. I have played a total of 1 round of Season 2. We're seeing it right now. Spoiler alert, we win. Have you been playing it, mate? What are your thoughts?
I have. I've had a few matches. I've jumped in a couple of times. I haven't had as much time as I'd like probably this week to sort of jump in and play some games. Been focusing on a few other things at the moment, but I did jump in and try the Last Spartan Standing mode, which is kind of like their Battle Royale mode they've added to the game.
I thought they were adding King of the Hill.
That is added as well, as far as I know. There is a King of the Hill mode. There's a few modes and then 2 new maps they've added. I've only played, I think, one of the new maps, which is the one I played on with the Last Spartan Stand. I think that mode a little bit unbalanced at the moment, because if you don't start well, you're not going to finish well, because the way it works is the more kills you get, the better weapons you unlock, kind of like that Call of Duty mode.
Yeah, what's that, gun game?
Gun game? Yeah. It's like that, so you sort of... You play, if you get a few kills, it's good. You can come back. I sort of didn't start too well. I managed to get a few kills towards the end, but from the start, there was one guy that had sort of had all the kills at the start, and it turned out he won the game.
Yeah, right.
So it was very hard to come back from that. So if you start well, if you pick up some good pickups, like there's an invisibility thing you can pick up, and that's pretty hard because you have no idea they're coming. They get enough shots on you that by the time you turn around and shoot, they've already killed you. So... enjoyable. I mean, the mechanics of Halo I've always loved. When I've got more time, I'll probably get back into it. I know there was a bit of gripe about Season 2 locking unless you bought Season 2, it actually locked you out of some of the progression from Season 1 unless you bought Season 2.
Oh, I didn't hear that news, because I haven't picked up Season 2 yet.
Yeah, so I can't remember exactly what it was, but obviously, if you, store, player of Halo, then that kind of can be a bit of a gear to grind if you haven't finished season 1 battle pass and you're still going, and they're making you fork out money for number 2. But
yeah, that's crazy.
I don't know. Yeah, so I'll keep playing at some point when I get a chance. There's another game that's not on this list at the moment, but it is in my over that I've been playing probably a little bit more of than Halo when it comes to first-person shooters. But I won't mention that just yet. You can probably guess what it is anyway.
Guess in the YouTube chat, because I can see the list, so that wouldn't be fair. Yeah, mate, as we all know, I've been playing a fair bit of Destiny recently, and it is remarkable switching between Destiny 2 and Halo Infinite. Just, you can feel that, and obviously they're different teams now, 343 is on Halo, but you can feel that it was the same original team that set up the shooting for Halo that do Destiny 2. It's remarkable how easy it is to switch between those two specific online multiplayer games. They are so similarly matched, you don't miss a beat. It's really cool. I really respect the way they've done that. And obviously, I still get baffled by people not playing the objective. As we're seeing in the footage here, we over double score them, and it never occurred to them to stop trying to shoot us and start getting the objective anyway.
It annoys me more when I get paired with a team like that, where you're on that team, you're trying to capture the objective. All they care about is their K.
Yeah.
Seriously. It is great, when you do come up against a team that has no idea and you decimate them.
Speaking of coming up a team and no idea and decimating them, I've also been playing game, 4 this week? Rocket League. My goodness, Steve. I'll just toot my own horn a little bit and say my aerial game is really coming up a fair bit better. I'm really starting to pull off some ridiculous shots off the side wall, and I'm actually getting close to starting to use the roof in some of my plays. I'm getting very excited about Rocket League.
Oh, nice. How, are you still anywhere near that platinum or not?
The platinum is what's between me and the platinum? Oh, I've technically got the platinum, and there's was there 1 or 2? There are 1 or 2 trophies. I do need it. Oh, that's right. It's the club. It's the club trophy I need to get. We need to sort out some clubbage. But anyway, Rocket League, still amazing, cross-platform, free to play. More people should be playing it, I guess, is my point, which will then bring us to game 5. My question is, Steve, I've been playing some Apex Legends as well, and because we're coming up to the end of the battle pass, so I was just trying to quickly bump up a few more levels before it ends. I believe it ends tonight. But my question to you is, after play, I reckon I've probably played, I'm making up numbers here, but call it maybe 20 rounds in the past week of Apex Legends.
Oh, okay.
And it's a fair bit, and I really can't believe of this game specifically how much time there is spent in-game where you're not doing anything other than running around and picking up loot. It's
kind of what made me forfeit. Like, I couldn't delete my console after the last time I played it because, I don't know, I just find more instant gratification even just playing like something like a Fortnite. Like, I feel like if I could just drop in, quickly pick up a weapon and just shoot it, I can. Whereas this, I don't know, there's a lot of inventory stuff going on. I feel like it's been like half the time picking up all this crap, and then you get into a gunfight and you're dead straight away. To me, that's not fun.
It's really odd. And my question, mate, did they start with the maps this size and 100 players? Or has Apex Legends always been 60-player rounds? I don't recall.
Like, I'm probably not the person to ask, but I'm pretty sure it did start on a smaller scale than like your 100. I don't think it.
Well, it's. I only saw rounds of 60 this week, but I was wondering: are the maps designed for 100 players, and by removing 40 players, they've just added all this time of just running around collecting loot? There's not enough players per square meter of map, I guess, is my point. Or that maybe the ring needs to shrink quicker. I think Apex Legends needed a few tweaks before it can go shoulder to shoulder with even like a Halo or Destiny. For like an online multiplayer shooter, I reckon Apex Legends needs to pull its socks up a bit. I'm tempted to issue them an infringement notice from the Gaming Enforcement Agency.
You know what, Troy? Give them one.
All right, Apex Legends, you're on notice. Pull your socks up. Tighten the maps, make them smaller, or add more players per map. Something's not right. The balance is not quite right. They need to look into it.
That's right. And like, I'd be on to be the last Spartan standing is not quite the battle sort of, experience I want when it comes to, battle royale kind of thing. I think there Halo, and there's, rumors that was it there's a company that's not 343 that's working on something Halo. It sounds like they're probably working on some kind of battle royale. I think that's going to lend itself really well to one because the mechanics of Halo a little bit simpler, and I don't think they're going to overcomplicate it like this seems to be quite. For me, it feels very complicated just jumping into this game and trying to figure it out. Like unless you've got someone there sherpering you, it's very hard to figure out what does what. I think Halo is very simple in its thing, and I think you add your vehicles and stuff to Halo. I think that can have a really enjoyable battle royale, but. Yeah, for me, I'm off this game. I don't think I'll ever go back to it.
Yeah, there's so much good things about Apex Legends. It's just there's not enough firefight. Like if they just tighten the maps up, I can see me playing a lot of this. But the maps are just too big. There's too much negative space. There's too much not going on between moments and interactions of really cool stuff. Oh, it feels like they're so close to an absolute hit. I don't know why they don't just tighten those screws a little and really nudge. Anyway. A lot of fun to be had in Apex Legends still, but I think it could use some tightening around the edges. Speaking of something that needs tightening around the edges, Steve, tell me, how's the Halo TV show going for you?
Speaking of tightening around the edges, this episode didn't need to exist for starters.
Oh, look out! Scathing criticism!
This episode, literally, if you've been watching this show, don't watch this episode. You don't need to. It brings nothing to the overall story of the show whatsoever. It incorporates the least favorite character of everyone watching this show for a whole episode. And I really hope that this is the last time we ever see this character. Quan Ha, just go away. You're insufferable. You're annoying. There's no redeemable qualities about you whatsoever. I kind of hope a grunt kills you with a plasma pistol to the face. I don't care.
You'll be shocked. Is this episode 7, I believe, Steve?
Episode 7, and I can
of how many?
I think it's 9 or 10 episodes.
Yeah, keep going. Sorry, I apologise.
No. The last 2 episodes were really, really good, and they started to finally focus on the main story, Master Chief, and I could see this coming a mile away. Where I knew last episode, I was like, we didn't have any Quan Ha. That was amazing. It was just focused on the Spartans and Master Chief and the ring. I was like, I guarantee you, we're going to get a freaking Quan Ha episode, and that's exactly what we got. The only way Master Chief was in this episode was with a vision of hers while she was drugged by some ladies in the desert, which she somehow managed to find while she drove a car with no windows directly into a storm. And then, just don't give me, such an annoying. And then actually probably the best bit was with Master Chief because she wakes up in this drug-induced state and this Master Chief's in there, and it's kind of like a Mortal Kombat thing where she just walks up each time trying to kill Chief, and he just belts her to the ground, and it's amazing because he's just belting the crap out of her. And she tries multiple times and just grabs a gun and she's stupidly shooting at his armor. I'm like, he's got these black soft bits you can shoot at, or his neck or something. Just do something smart, but she doesn't. Just shoots directly at his armor. And then gets punched in the face, which again makes me very happy. But eventually, he offers his hand to her. It's like, oh, okay, I'll offer my hand, and we're going to work together. But again, Troy, for whatever reason, it's a dream. He doesn't need to take his helmet off. But guess what, Troy? Guess what? Even in the dream state, Master Chief needs to take his helmet off, even though he's not anything by his face that would suggest he needed to do that. And then he gets out of his freaking suit altogether and walks her to some well thing, and a whole bunch of other stuff happens, but it's all inconsequential. And then there's a pretty cool battle scene between her and Soren, who's the other. We've spoken about him before. He's the other Spartan. He gets the neck, but somehow lives, and it's not a bad scene. He's pretty badass, and just kills most of the guys coming after her. But then this is what annoys me. We haven't established the fact that she's a warrior at all. I mean, she's a warrior at being annoying. If she was, there's a war about being annoying, she'd win. But she finds she's back where they had the first fight scene with Master Chief and stuff in the very first episode. She somehow finds Master Chief's assault rifle, and she's like, she takes one shot with this assault rifle that's renowned for being inaccurate, especially at long range, and takes one shot at this like structure and just blows up everyone and kills the main bad guy of her storyline and all the guys with it. And then she's like, join me on my crusade. And Soren's like, nah, I'm all good. And I'm like, good on you, sir. Good on you. I hope we never see her again. I hope you don't have to have another episode with her. I hope you're done. I'm not done with the show. I'm just done with her and didn't need this episode. And let's move on because it's getting me angry, Troy.
Wait, I've got two questions for you. If at the end of the 10th episode, the ending cliffhanger is on her narrative and not Master Chief's, is that enough to make you not watch season 2?
Yeah, I'm done. Yep.
Fair enough. And my second question, and this is obscure, so bear with me, but talking about Apex Legends and saying it was too big, and maybe you were saying there's an offshoot team doing a Battle Royale for Halo, how would this be, mate, if it was on a Halo ring, but the Halo ring itself, physical dimensions, was just tiny enough for 100 people to fit, so when you're driving vehicles, you're on the Halo, but it's tiny, and it's more like a Inception when you're in the city and you can see the roof, like the city, how amazing would that be if the map was like a tight, tiny ring with 100 people on it going around that way? Whew.
Okay, I really like that idea. That's got me back into a positive mind frame when it comes to Halo, so I appreciate that. Thank you, Troy.
My pleasure. Imagine that you spawn on the ring, pick up a sniper rifle, and look straight up, and you're essentially looking straight down on the other side of the battlefield, and you can snipe down at ants.
I like it.
That would be amazing. Get onto that one, guys. Anyway, now, that is it for the standard interrogation and deliberation, which, of course, brings us to the overtime segment. However, Steve, as you're aware, the viewers aren't. I crashed the G.E.A. squad car earlier this week, and I've been told no overtime for me until I've repaid for that squad car. So, Steve, unfortunately, I can't join you, but you did get some overtime. What did you play?
I did get some overtime, but first, just going to issue a Halo TV show and infringement notice as well.
Oh, look at the infringement notices in one night. That's right, the Gaming Enforcement Agency. We mean business.
We do. As for my overtime, into the Sifu update that was released this week, which had the new difficulty options added to the game.
Easy mode. How was it?
Easy mode. Well, I didn't actually do easy mode because it was going to ruin my progress on my normal mode playthrough. So if I ever decide I want to go through from where I'm up to, I didn't want to sort of stuff any of that up.
Fair enough, mate. Understandable.
I did. It does book some outfit options for your character as well, which I believe his name is Sifu. That makes sense.
It would.
So for defeating the final boss, you do get some badass outfits. So I did chuck in that. I did jump into the first level again just to sort of get my fingers wet, so to speak, with the gameplay again, and realise I've completely forgotten how to play that game. So
easy mode, it's for you.
I wasn't bad, but I'd completely forgotten all my sort of OP moves that got me, to the end of the game, and I think I might struggle to get to the end of the game for yourself currently in my current state.
Well, we didn't get you over here during the Easter break, mate, so I've still got almost all trophies waiting for you to get into the studio unlocked for me, but it sounds like I've missed my window. The skills have abandoned us. Oh, no. Come on, easy mode.
They have. I did see the other night, because you were on Sifu, were you trying to get past that club level?
I did fire up Sifu. I did work out how to get it into easy mode, and then it reset all my progress, as you were alluding to. But I didn't even finish the first level. I got up to the first boss, and then life called me away from it, so I turned it off. But I dabbled with it a little. But
no stress.
Yes.
All right, what else we got? Destiny 2, we spoke of briefly. I've been jumping back on that, trying to raise my level, and took some advice from Aaron the other night. I've just been trying to do get that pinnacle running Vanguard missions and doing some of that multiplayer stuff, which I still haven't won one of those matches. Troy, I can't win what's it called?
I looked back at last week's and couldn't believe I called it Crucible the whole time. Constantly called it's Gambit. I meant everything Gambit. I said last week. Gambit. Instead, cross out Crucible, put Gambit in. Yes, Gambit mode. I can't believe we've never won one, Steve. I'm devastated to hear that. It's like the charm of the game mode isn't revealed until you get that win, until you get the come from behind out of nowhere victory, and then you're like, now I get this game mode. If you haven't experienced it,
I was primed with that. Like this, like every game I've played of that, I've usually been well ahead, and then we lose. This was the one time where like we were behind. I'm like, this is our moment to come from behind, and then I lost. I was like, okay, I'm done. I'll put it away for today. I'll get back to it. It's a very fun mode. And splitting your destiny is just so tight that no matter what you're doing in that game, it's still fun.
And I looked up my stats for the season so I could do a little update. On Destiny 2, I have played 60 matches of Gambit this season. And Steve, take a guess. Of the 60 I've played, how many do you reckon I've won? Pick a number.
42.
30. Bang on. Half and half.
Wow, that's actually really good. I'm currently 100% loss rate, so you're doing well.
It's a lot of fun, man. Stick with it. It's so rewarding when you can get there. As I was saying, I think it was on the live stream. I happened to do it on G.E.A. To me, when you win a game like that, is like winning a really tough game of poker. It's that same reward center in the brain lighting up for me. Anyway, sorry, back to your overtime, Steve.
I love that. Sorry, speaking of sticking with it, I've stuck with Rogue Legacy 2, still ploughing my way through that, still trying to defeat that first boss. And, God, he's hard. He's harder than the Sifu boss. He's harder than Dark Souls boss. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep grinding away, but he is really, really hard. His area of effect attacks are just frustratingly hard, but I know I'll get through it at some point. I remember the first boss of Rogue Legacy 1 taking me equally amount of time to get through and finish. So
I'm totally drawing a blank on what the boss fights even look like in Rogue Legacy. I've definitely played Rogue Legacy 1. I'm sure I would have finished a boss. But can you just give me what is the uniqueness about their boss fights? Anything, something to call it to mind.
They're really big, so they take up probably about almost like the half of the height of your screen, and they just got massive area of effect attacks and sometimes jump over. They might rush you. They might throw projectiles at you, and you got to dodge them. But it's
yes. It's come back to me. Yes. I'm with you.
You can't like phase through anything. So like if you jump and then dodge through something, you'll get hit by it. It's so frustrating. Like you got to almost have like a god run at this point with like stuff you picked up and collectibles, and have massive amount of health like as you get there, or else you're going down pretty quick, or you'll get him down to at least half health, and then he goes even more god mode on you, and you just stand no chance. But
nasty phase 2, I take it.
Frustrating in a fun way. Like even if you die, like you don't lose progress per se, because you keep any of the gold you've unlocked in that level. And if you're going to go through a level long enough to get yourself the abilities to even fight him, you've usually unlocked 1,500 coins, and that's at least enough to sort of give you a fair few health upgrades or some new armor upgrades or weapon upgrades. So you're never going empty-handed, which is, again, part of the joy and stuff and progression in Rogue Legacy and Rogue Legacy 2.
Nice. Any highlights from, what do you call them, heritage traits, whatever? Any crazy new ones?
Nothing new per se that I can remember that I've got. Like I did make a list last week, but
I just didn't know if maybe a new highlight had appeared. That was all. I thought maybe one had jumped out at you.
Nah, nothing that I can sort of speak upon just yet.
All good, mate. All good. Now, that will, of course, do it for the game's interrogation and deliberation segment, which can only mean one thing, Steve. I could be wrong, but I think it's time.
It is, Troy.
Now, this week, we're kicking it off with Polygon. And the story is Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake is now in the hands of Ubisoft Montreal. Now, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong. Did Ubisoft Montreal make the original Prince of Persia Sands of Time?
I believe they were in charge of the original, and probably should have been in charge of this one from the start. I like that they gave these guys a chance to get this game out. I think it was supposed to be out, was it early this year? No, originally, I think it was last year.
No, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure it was end of November last year was the original release date.
Yeah, so it looks like it's gone back to the original developers and probably got a bit more, I don't know whether it's staff time, etc., to get this game out. But, I mean, it was one of the best games when it did come out back in the PlayStation 2 era, I believe.
I spent so much time with the Prince of Persia. I played it back in the day. This is when I was back into PC heavily. So I played it on PC exclusively.
Yeah, wow. And then just reading through it says Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake was originally announced in September for an expected 2021 release date. So it's been delayed twice, once from January to March, and then again indefinitely. So it's obviously gone through, development. Well, I think we still will see this game. It's not like it's not coming out from, the trailers and stuff they showed. Even though they got panned, it was, pretty much a full game. It's just didn't look next gen, and it looked last gen. It was, yeah. I think we're going to get a full review of this game now. So hopefully, it's, it kind of meets the deadline where they don't think we're going to see it this year, but hopefully it meets the product that we're expecting to get and that it used to be, and I'm hoping they can pull it off.
I wonder how much of this, like being delayed and pushed back, is from because remember, what was it? They originally put the skids on. I want to say it was Assassin's Creed, but then there was like a waterfall fleck with it, because then wasn't there meant to be a third Ghost Recon Wildlands Breakpoint? I think they had a third, and then they pulled it back when Breakpoint wasn't well received. Then Assassin's Creed started slowing down. I wonder whether they're just like, we cannot afford another dud anything. We would rather have 2 years of delays than release another dud game. So this could be a time where all that negative press for like 3 years, Ubisoft just copped it in the teeth. I think this might be actually a sign of a positive change that's come about. I think this might be, a good bit of news, if anything.
It could be good news, because they could have easily probably just put this game out. They would have obviously got sales based on the IP as it is, and the goodwill the game's already got, being like, a standout game for that era. So again, like, it would have sold. Like, you and me probably would have got it.
I was such a fan of that first game, or the original release, I should say, back on PC. I would love to play this game again,
And there's a lot of people like that, but you could easily see it being like a Grand Theft Auto trilogy kind of thing, where they get it out, and obviously nostalgia still sells the game, but then all the negative press would obviously put a halt on that, and then it's not good for your game. So I'm glad to see they've sort of, hopefully now we get like the Prince of Persia that we deserve.
Yes, I think this is a sign of that we're going to get exactly that. So tip of the cap to Ubisoft. Keep the wraps on it until it's ready. I would much rather a good game. So thank you, I say, to Ubisoft. Hold on to it, boys, until it's cooked.
Speaking of good games, Troy, let's go to news story number 2.
Okay, news story number 2 from Video Games Chronicles. Babylon's Fall has dropped to just one concurrent player on PC. The troubled Square Enix online game is showing no signs of improvement.
Sorry, I meant shit games.
Hey, Steve, do you think if Square Enix gave 2 licks about it, that they couldn't just fire up, say, I don't know, 100 PCs somewhere and just have nobody playing it, but they could at least keep that player count artificially above, say, 100 if they cared?
Yeah, you would think so.
This would be an incredibly easy problem to solve if Square Enix cared. They clearly do not care at all about this game or the negative press around it. It's so bizarre to me that they wouldn't even take the effort of doing some artificial inflation of their numbers of concurrent players. It's crazy to me.
Do you reckon this is one of those games that's gone to Embracer Group? I don't remember seeing this game mentioned last week at all when it came to Square Enix selling off.
Oh, that's an excellent question. Do we know who was the development house behind it? Was it one of their Western developers that they cut free?
Babylon's Fall. I'm just trying to look here to see if...
I'm quickly scanning as well.
Yeah, I can't... Square Enix and Platinum Games. There we go. So it's Platinum Games. I don't remember seeing their names as one of the listed ones that were bought up.
No, I can't imagine why. Maybe they would have had to drop it below 300 million for the deal if they included Babylon's Fall. Maybe they would have had to make it a $200 million deal.
Yeah, Platinum's Games, they've got some good games. They've made some crap games in their time as well, but they've definitely, got some good ones in there as well. So, I don't know. Like, whether they must still be Square Enix, but obviously Babylon's Fall is a bit of a miss. Going by these stats?
Well, Babylon's fallen. I don't think it can fall any further. Babylon fell? Can we move to past tense for it, maybe?
Let's go Babylon's fell.
All right, then, moving on. Thanks to Press Start Australia, we have new looks. I'm not sure I agree with that S. A new look at Gotham Knights and Dead Space are coming this week.
Yeah, so Australia's Standard Time. So for us, Troy, 11 p.m. tonight, we're
Whoa, look out.
the Gotham Knights, and there's rumours now that it's going to be 4-player co-op. I don't know if that was announced previously.
I haven't heard that, but I love that news. That's great.
So it's great news. People have got 4 friends that are willing to sit down at the exact same time to play this game. I don't know if that'll be me. I reckon we might be able to get 2 of us playing the game.
Well, wife and 2 kids. I reckon I can get over the line as long as it's a kid-friendly title. Do we know the rating? Are they aiming for a G game by any chance? PG, maybe?
I reckon we're getting... it might be PG, or is it Arkham? I don't know, but it might be PG for us going by this. I'm not sure what the Arkham games were rated. I think they might have copped an M rating down here.
Maybe. Yes. Anyway.
But I don't know. Like I know it's got co-op, but I don't know. The Arkham player in me really wants to play this game solo anyway. So.
Yeah, 100%. Have they justified any gameplay hooks or anything for the multiplayer? Is there anything that is additive by you and I in the same game world?
Not that I'm aware of. I know they did reveal a trailer. It was at last E3 we saw the first gameplay stuff for this.
Yeah.
And it was kind of solo, and a player drops in at some point, and they sort of mention the co-op stuff, but until we get sort of a deep look, which I think is what we're going to get tonight, I won't be awake to see it, but I'll check it out tomorrow. Hopefully we see a better look about how that sort of co-op and multiplayer sort of integrates and how it actually works, and whether it gets excited to jump in there as characters and play this game multiplayer. So, I mean, I can see myself doing this game, solo. If our co-op campaign sort of melds and our progression works together in some way, there's nothing worse than games where it's, you do your own thing, but then you jump into someone else's game and that doesn't matter in your game at all. You got to jump in and do it all again. I don't know. It's going to make it real hard for a game like this, where it's generally a single player story campaign driven game, to sort of make that co-op work. So I'll be very interested to see how it actually works. I have heard that it is drop in, drop out, but how that works, I don't know.
Do we think, is there any fear this is going to be Avengers level live service game that should have just been single player and is instead forced to be online multi?
Yeah.
Is there any air of that maybe?
Yeah, maybe. I think from what I've heard, there's none of, yes, it's got co-op, drop in, drop out, but I don't think it's live service. So I think they've come out and said it's not a live service game. So that gives me some kind of hope, is that it's just a single player game that you can play co-op if you want. So I'm happy with that. I just hate when single player games try to incorporate
multiplayer. Yeah.
Incorporate multiplayer into that game, and it's sort of some of the mechanics hurt because of that when you're playing the game solo.
Yes.
So, again, we'll remains to be seen. We'll check it out tomorrow morning and see how we go. But we're also getting at 3 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. I'm more likely to be awake then because I'm working in the morning. But again, probably just check this out at some stage tomorrow. We're getting the new information and video stuff on the new Dead Space, which I'm very excited for, Troy. How about yourself?
I am excited. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, is this a remake of the first one, or is this a true sequel to the third one? Is this Dead Space 4? This
is a full remake of the first game.
Right. So, and we don't have a release date yet, do we?
No, we don't. So they've had a lot of tech demo stuff come out for this, like sound stuff and graphics and stuff. So if this is a proper look, I'm hoping maybe we get a release date, and I'm hoping it's this year, but I could see it easily being one of those like February, March, loading us up at the start of the year again, like we've copped this year as well. So again, we'll report back next week. Yeah,
absolutely. Last line of the story has said that they're hoping for a release date for it, so it's outside of the 2023 release window. So I guess they've already said it was a next year game.
Yeah, okay. Oh, well,
which is unfortunate. I was really hoping for one of those, here's the in-depth look and it's available to pre-order now and it's out in, 2 months or something.
Oh,
that would have been nice.
I still think coming up to, E3 season, rest in peace E3, but Summer Games, I think we're going to get a lot of games, I think, that we haven't even heard of that might get that treatment where it's like, this is the game and it's still out this year. Because I think you look towards the end of the year, there's a few games here and there, but it's not massively full of massive titles. So I think we're still going to get that. But it's unfortunate that Dead Space isn't one of them. But I think we're getting Gotham Knights this year. hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Fingers crossed. And as you said, Steve, we will include all the details of this next week on G.E.A. But the fourth story this evening is on IGN. WWE, have signed a deal to make an RPG. My quick question, if I can pull it off, where is it? I'm guessing here. Nope. There it is right there. Is it going to give us copyright restrictions? Is this a game we won't even be able to talk about?
Yeah, probably, Troy. We'll run with it, though. We'll see how we go, eh? We'll run that gauntlet.
We will. Do you know anything, Steve? What can you tell us? RPG?
They haven't really sort of said much, but it's intriguing because there are RPG elements in the WWE 2K game where you play your campaign modes and you've got stats and all that kind of stuff. What I would really like to see, this would be my pitch for a WWE RPG game. I'd like to see it something like a South Park, Stick of Truth.
Oh, yeah.
Where you've got either characters that have dressed up on Halloween to be like these wrestlers. You've got the actual wrestlers going through a story like that, and they're sort of more cartoon caricature versions of those characters, or they are those wrestlers, and there's an awesome RPG story along with it. Because I don't think we really need a wrestling game and we're going to play a wrestling game. So I think they could really go wacky with this and do something crazy with a storyline. And you've obviously got your party of characters, and you can pick your main wrestlers, and you're playing as stuff, and make it either a Final Fantasy game. But yeah, I'd really like to see more lean cartoony style South Park game if I was going to.
More like the what was that game? WWE, was it SmackDown? Was that the really cartoony looking one? More like that art style.
What was it called? No, they had the big.
Was it Battle something? Battlegrounds. Battlegrounds, I think. Maybe, yeah.
WWE Battlegrounds, I think. Was
so like that art style more, do you mean?
Potentially that art style. I mean, you can go either way, but I just think there's no point making it a wrestling game per se. I think you got to get wacky with it and just have they can do wrestling moves and stuff, but maybe it's a turn-based thing. Or maybe it's I don't know. I don't know what you do with it. It's a strange thing to sort of announce, especially when I see it coming from Stephanie McMahon, who's now apparently in charge of game development. When I can remember watching her back as a kid as a wrestler. So it's very strange seeing her name above this.
What about this, Steve? What if instead of RPG they went roguelike? What if it was Rogue Legacy, maybe WWE Legacy, and you played through, you played as The Rock, and when he dies you play as Hulk Hogan, or you know what I mean? Just if you go through every wrestler that the WWE have ever had on some sort of crazy random loop.
Oh, see, I'd be down for that. I'd be down for something like that. I reckon it'd find an audience. I mean, when I say find an audience, again, I don't know what this game's audience would be, to be honest. I mean, wrestling nerds, for lack of a better term, love their wrestling, and they're going to play wrestling games. And then, people playing RPGs love their RPGs. So I don't know where or what your audience would be like for a wrestling RPG.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I like it. We'll keep our eyes peeled. It sounds interesting, if nothing else. All right. The fifth and final story this week is from Eurogamer, and they're letting us know that Xbox have been criticised after outages had left games inaccessible, I believe, for up to 4 days. People have said. What else have you got for us, Steve?
I wasn't directly affected by this because I don't think I logged into my Xbox why this happened, but I have had similar issues in the past where the fact that the whole infrastructure went down, even though I owned games on my Xbox outright, I couldn't play them because it would say that I required the disc, or I didn't own the game. And so this is a massive issue. I don't know what they can do to fix it. It's like the DRM stuff with games that, and I end up setting up my game console to be not online always, essentially, so I can't download games now from my phone or install them from my phone, because that was the only way to keep my games playable if that ever happened again. So I think they need to fix something with that infrastructure they've got going with the Xbox, because it becomes very frustrating to know that you own a game and you can't play it when these kind of things happen. So I'm glad that it looks like they've fixed it, and there's apparently more fixes coming, they haven't completely fixed it from all accounts. So I just think they need to do something about that, because it's very frustrating, as I said, people have forked out money for these games they can't play.
I've got the answer, I believe, Steve, and people aren't going to like it, but this is actually a legitimate, I think, reasonable use for the blockchain. If they did their DRM via blockchain instead of off their Xbox servers, you would have... I think you could mitigate this issue entirely, but do Microsoft want to let their DRM run through the blockchain is another question entirely. But they don't probably want to put the old NFT system under too much scrutiny at this point. It might wobble and fall over entirely. But I suspect a clever implementation of blockchain would fix this. Yes, that would be frustrating as all hell, but I could say I personally had no issues with my Xbox. I played it a little over the weekend, and I didn't notice one issue personally here locally. But it would have sucked if you were caught by it. I don't excuse it at all. And yes, Microsoft, get onto a fix. Start looking at blockchain.
That's it. Otherwise, you know what, Xbox, guess what you're getting if you don't fix it?
Infringement notice from the Gaming Enforcement Agency.
So you're on warning, Xbox, so just make sure you don't cross that line.
Yes, we don't want to have to fill out a third one. The paperwork for this week's episode is going to be massive. All right, finishing the news segment as we always do with Game Informer's list of games coming out this week, starting with I don't even know how to pronounce that first word. Chronicle Rising. Chronicle Rising.
I'm going to go with Ayuden.
Ayuden, Chronicle Rising, coming to the Xbox Series XX, Xbox One, and PC. That suggests maybe Game Pass with that limited list. I would suspect heavily, keep your eyes on Game Pass. You might see that one on May 10th.
Tell you it's definitely not coming to is my console. That's for sure.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Bob Bow on the Game Pass, but okay. Next up, we have Salt and Sacrifice coming to the PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, and PC. I know nothing about Salt and I know a lot about sacrificing salt from my meals, but Steve, do you know anything about Salt and Sacrifice, the video game?
I can only assume, and I haven't done any research, but I would be close to saying I'm 100% correct. This is a sequel to Salt and Sanctuary that came out a few years ago, which I think was a side-scrolling Souls-like game, if memory serves, with a kind of cool art style.
Very cool. One to keep your eye out for. PS5, PS4, and PC out May 10th for that one. Next up, Steve, we have This War of Mine, the final cut, coming to PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and X. That is also out today, May 10th. Do we know anything other about it, Steve?
I can't remember if I saw it on Game Pass, or I think the final cut might be Game Pass or highly discounted. There's another version that's full price, but it's like a survivally. I'm trying to think of the word. There was that Fallout game that was on iOS back when they announced Fallout. Fallout Shelter. Fallout
Shelter was the iOS game. Yes, I'm with you.
Yeah, it looks like that. So
yeah, okay.
Imagine that. I haven't looked at it, but from the screenshots I've seen, it looked very similar to something like that.
I'm relatively confident, going back about 3 years in PlayStation Plus land, they gave the original This War of Mine out on the PlayStation 4. So if you have been with PlayStation Plus for a while and you're interested, I think you could check it out for free last gen. And I don't believe there's any new additions to this one, is there, Steve? This is just the next gen release, as I understand it.
I believe so. Yeah, I'd have to look into it, but if you liked it, you want a better version of it, get it on the new consoles.
I guess. Sorry, mate. I'm just fighting with the camera here as I ask you. Is there no sign of Game Pass for this?
Let's see. I was literally on my Xbox just before, and I'm telling you now, it's either cheaper or Game Pass. I'm not 100% sure on that. I could also check for you if you really want.
No, it's all right. The camera's back. We'll move on. Next up, we have Unpacking, the beloved Unpacking. Here coming now to PlayStation.
The award-winning Unpacking.
Indeed. Coming now to the PlayStation, both the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, also on May the 10th. We, of course, gave it 2 big thumbs up. Available still in Xbox Game Pass if you're that way loaded. But if you're just on the PlayStation, you'll be able to check it out moving forward. Steve, what do you think what would you pay for it on the PlayStation? What's a good price, do you think, for the old Unpacking game? If you've never played it before,
no more than $19.95, I reckon.
Bingo. I was sitting right there with you. $20 for me. If it's $20 on the PlayStation, pick it up. You'll enjoy it. And the final game this week on Game Informer is The Evil Dead the Game, coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and X, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. It's coming out everywhere except the Stadia on May 13th. Steve, you're looking forward to this one?
Mate, I was looking forward to playing this on my Stadia, so it's unfortunate that it's not coming out. No, I don't know. If this game was a single-player, third-person game, I'm not a massive Evil Dead fan. I don't imagine how many people are out there that are Evil Dead fans.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure.
This game's weird, like, cause it's a very similar game to your Friday the 13th and all those sort of asymmetric multiplayer games where someone plays the villain and or villains and everyone else plays the survivors, that kind of thing. So from the stuff I've seen, it's kind of cool, but unless you've got a good group of players or friends to play this game with, you're probably going to fall off it or not even play it at all. So, yeah, as I said, if it was a single-player game, I'd probably consider myself giving it a crack. There's not much out at the moment. Third-person action games, I love them. But, yeah, if it's just solely a multiplayer experience, I could probably pass on this one for now.
You and I both, mate. You and I both. Now, that brings the end to that one. And I almost hit the wrong button on my switcher there. Steve, where are we headed now, mate?
The standoff.
It's the standoff. I've got a graphic for that. Hold on, Steve. Look out. It's the...
Who will fight?
Who will fight? Wah, ha, ha. Oh, now I've got to find one more window. I am so broken in. Woo! All right, no, it's all good. We've come good. Here we go. All right, tonight, who will fight? First up, and I'm hoping this comes through mute. It looks like it will. Oh, it's a very stuttery, but Devil May Cry, Steve.
Yeah, the old DMC. So this was the sort of departure from Devil May Cry, like proper series, and everyone kind of expected it to do poorly, and some people didn't like it at all and we just blanket, no, this is not my Devil May Cry. I don't like it at all without even giving it a fair shot. But I fell in love with this game. I loved it. The gameplay itself was amazing. The soundtrack was awesome. I actually got the, I think it was a collector's edition and it came with the soundtrack for the game. And I was listening to the soundtrack in my car and it's sort of your heavy metal stuff, which I'm not generally into, but the way it worked within the game, I just thought was phenomenal. I thought the gameplay was great. I love the story. I love the color palette. Like, I did not expect this after all the sort of hate that I'd seen for it and changing the way Dante looks. And he's not blonde. He's got brown hair and whatever. But I absolutely adored this game. What about yourself? Did you give it a go?
I have never really been into the Devil May Cry series as a whole. It's no. So I gave this one a miss. I haven't played it myself. It does look cool though, certainly from the videos.
I reckon if you've never been into Devil May Cry, you may actually like this. It's, I don't know, just something about it. It's got a good attitude about it. I think it's tongue in cheek. The action's really good. If you like third person action games, not necessarily butt mashes. There's like cool combos and stuff. I just think the world's really creative. The enemies are creative.
I always enjoyed the look of Bayonetta, and I played it a bit on the Switch. Now, I want to say this came out in like the first year of the Switch, the end of the first year of the Switch. Is that when Bayonetta came to the Switch?
Yeah, I reckon, yeah.
Somewhere around there. That's the only game I've played that reminds me of this. Are they that similar? It feels like that. Are they similar games? Am I correct in that assertion?
Pretty similar, yeah. Like, Bayonetta has always been sort of very similar third-person action to Devil May Cry, so very similar, very, very stylish, very action-driven and stuff. But, yeah, it had no right for a reboot to me as good as it was. I kind of wish we'd seen another one of those. I think I still enjoyed this game probably more than DMC 5, which actually got pretty good reviews for being a Devil May Cry game. But I kind of liked where this game went. So this was definitely a surprise packet for me.
Nice one. All right, game number 2 is what, Steve?
It is Mario versus Rabbids. Troy, did you play this?
I did. This was now was this a launch title? I feel like this was a launch title for the Switch as well, wasn't it? And this was and this kind of reminded me. Gosh, we talked about it earlier as well. The South Park RPG, something about it made me feel like that.
It's kind of Mario Rabbids XCOM. Like, if you've ever played XCOM, it's very similar to that when it comes to its gameplay.
Yes. Yep.
But anything with rabbits in it, straight away you're like, oh, I know exactly what this game's going to be, because the rabbits, they've never really been in any good games. Like, really. Like, they've got a TV show and stuff. They're wacky, like they're a kid's thing, because they're very much the minion of Nintendo, essentially.
Are they Nintendo? I thought this one was Ubisoft.
It is Ubisoft with Nintendo, so they kind of worked with them, which is weird because, you know, Nintendo is very protective of their properties and stuff. So to let Ubisoft sort of work on a game within the Mario sort of universe was, you know, in and of itself quite interesting to see. But they just pulled this game off, and there's a sequel still coming out. I don't know if we'll see it this year. I think it was supposed to be out this year. But this game got really good reviews. I really enjoyed it. I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did. I think the quirkiness of the, you know, rabbits dressing up as the Mario characters and the graphics were really good. The combat itself, like if you enjoy XCOM combat, is really enjoyable in this kind of aesthetic. And I didn't expect to enjoy this game as much as
I got about 10 hours in, and then I just fell off it. There just wasn't enough new. I felt after 10 hours, I felt like they hadn't introduced anything new to keep me coming back. Maybe I was just playing it wrong, though. So I definitely enjoyed it at the start, but I fell off it, about the 10-hour mark myself.
No, that's right. Yeah, it's just one of those times I just didn't, like when I started playing, I didn't expect it to be drawn into it at all. I didn't even expect to buy this game at all, but then I saw all the positive reviews about it. I'm like, I couldn't not do it. And then I sort of, you know, really saw the charm and stuff of this game when I started playing it.
Yeah, I was in the same boat as you, mate. I had no interest, positive reviews. I ended up picking up, as I said, I put in 10 hours and fell off it, but my boys to this day still play it. So for the younger kids, a lot of appeal there.
There is.
Game number 3, Until Dawn, Steve. Oh, yeah, once again, sorry, just before we go, once again, I'll remind everyone, I haven't played Until Dawn either. Sorry, go, Steve.
First of all, play Until Dawn. Secondly, this is one of those ones that I never really played a lot of these whole like sort of point and click adventure type games. Not that this is point and click, like you still control your characters, but they're very much fixed camera angles and very heavily story based and QTE based. So, sorry for those playing at home. Quick time events.
Yes.
Where you tap into sort of different triangle X, whatever, in time, try and keep your characters alive. But to this day, like I knew I'd seen a lot of stuff about this game coming out. I think it was touted initially as a first-person VR game, was what they initially sort of had this game coming out, and it went through development hell, and then it was eventually coming out, and we'd seen like they had real actors in it, and there was a whole like, you know, is this going to be a bit too Uncanny Valley seeing people like Planetary and.
Was this originally a PS3 game? And then, as you said, development hell. Is that why it came out on PS4? Is my memory serving me?
It was, yeah. I reckon it started out PS3, then it was a VR game for PS4, then they moved to the whole third-person story-based QTE game. And so it had gone through a lot, so no one expected a lot. I didn't really expect a lot. I liked horror games, so I picked it up, and it ended up being one of those massive surprises where I've spoken about it before, where just sat here with the wife playing this game, and just like we would go to breakfast and keep talking about the story, what had happened, what's going to happen, and the decisions we had made and stuff. It's just one of those really cool experiences, and I think this is what makes me and gets me so excited for The Quarry, which is made the same guys, coming out June this year, so just around the corner for their newest game.
Exciting, man. I love it. Great work. All right, next up we have Doom. I'm assuming it's the Doom 2016 launch trailer.
Yes, Doom 2016. So what was weird about this is the reviews I don't actually think went live for this game until the game launched. And normally that's a telltale sign that the game's not going to be...
This was the first Bethesda game that they put the big brakes on the pre-releases for the YouTubers after it was, what was it, number 4? Fallout 4, wasn't it? Was the last one they let people do early reviews, and then this was the next one out, and they were like, no more early reviews.
Yeah, and everyone's like, that can only mean one thing, the game's bad. But guess what, Troy?
It was amazing.
It was really good.
Such a good game.
It had no right to be as good as it was, and it was amazing. And like, I actually think I prefer 2016 to the sequel that came out. I think it's simpler.
I was able to finish the sequel and not 2016, but keep going.
Yeah, I don't know. I think with the sequel, they tried to do too much. I think it was a bit more of the puzzle stuff. I kind of enjoyed the pure action and shooting and stuff of the first. I think it's got that right mixture of gameplay and exploration within the levels as well. And I just, this game just took me by surprise. I think it took everyone by surprise with that whole review embargo at the time. And
Yes.
we expected Doom, good franchise. How can they bring it into the current gen and still be good? And they absolutely nailed it.
Oh, they delivered. They delivered big time on that one. Another one that delivered, of course, Batman Arkham Asylum. I love this one.
Oh, this is one of my favorite games of all time, and this is when comic book hero games were known for being, for lack of a better word, shithouse. They were just movie tie-in games and no love put into them. So when we saw this Batman game coming out, we're like, okay, we're going to comic book game. It's not going to be great. And then I think I remember playing a demo for the game before the game came out of the start of the game, and I was like, okay, this game kind of feels like it's good, but again, I think reviewers at the time had played that demo, didn't trust it until the full game was going to come out to see what we got, and then this ended up being one of my favorite games. I think I went very close, if not 100% in it on the Xbox 360. I've played this campaign probably, I want to say 8 times, maybe.
Wow. I've done it 4 times, but 8. Tip of the cap, sir. Well done.
Yeah, just every year I feel like I need to play this game, and even then I find myself, even though I don't need to, going after all the Riddler trophies, and this game needs either an Xbox update which gives us 60 frames. I just want to play this game, 4K fidelity with 60 frames. The game itself, I don't think needs a full-on remaster. I think it's still a classic to this day.
Yeah,
it did Metroidvania, I think, better than any other sort of modern game has done since this game. I can't remember a game that's done it better in terms of backtracking and levels and story and just everything about this game, and just it nails Batman. Kevin Conroy, he is Batman to me. Like playing the 3 games, like I just love his voice as Batman, and we've spoken about it before, between him and Mark Hamill playing the Joker. I think this is almost the best you see their relationship together. They sort of work it in the other games as well. I think it's almost at its peak in the very first game where they're going toe-to-toe at Arkham, man. It's just a brilliant game. I know they went open world with the next one, and it could be argued that that's bigger, badder, better, but I just love the confined space and the Metroidvania style of this game, and it was just way better than it had any right to be, and it kickstarted one of the best franchises in gaming.
And to this day, it echoes through the detective mode, vision, whatever. It appears in every game now, but this is the one that started the old detective vision, and it's a brilliant addition to gaming.
It's combat. The free-flow combat.
Yes.
It also started a lot of that with a lot of games doing the similar things, and there's another game on this list coming up later that did something very similar with combat, but I'd still argue to this day that, Batman Arkham kicked it all as better than most.
I agree completely, mate. Next up, we have on the Wii U, The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker HD.
Troy, do you remember when they first announced this game? Everyone was like, oh my God, what have they done to Zelda? They've made it a cute cartoon.
Well, yes, I do remember that.
I was kind of in the same vein. I'm like, because everyone thought with the new Zelda, obviously with Ocarina of Time, how it was sort of realistic-ish for 64, that we would go hyper-realistic. And I think they'd even shown something of what a new Zelda would look like. It had gone more realistic from that Ocarina of Time art style. And then they dropped this, and everyone was like, what? Mm-hmm. And this game ended up being one of, if not my favorite Zelda games of all time, and probably its art style that holds up to this day. Like, I think the art style is almost timeless when it comes to this game. I think with the next Skyward Sword, they sort of tried to do something similar to this, but mix it, and then they ended up with Breath of the Wild, which I think is probably the peak of what's like. But I just love this style of Zelda. I don't know what it is about it, but this game spoke to me, and I absolutely adore it.
It is. It's a top-notch game, mate. I completely agree. Next up on the list is Hitman, the reboot, I guess, 2016's Hitman 1.
And I might leave this one for you because you're the Hitman man, but I remember when I first saw this game coming out, and the last Hitman I'd played was, I think, Absolution, where full action and sort of went away a bit from the whole Hitman Blood Money stuff, and then this was coming back to it. What were your thoughts about Hitman 2016?
Oh, well, I got to say, I'm obviously a big fan of it, but I was not a believer at all, and this trailer did not sell me on it at all. I hated the way it went at the end of the 360 generation with the blood money and everything. Like, I was way more a traditional Hitman fan. Like, before the modern Hitman, like Hitman 2 in my mind was the pinnacle way, way, way back. The original Hitman 2 was my mind the high watermark for gameplay, minute-to-minute gameplay. And this trailer, I'm like, oh, I don't think they're going to pull it off. Like, I think they're doing a fancy like this, heading off in this bizarre direction, but they didn't. They delivered on it. It was phenomenal. This trailer does not communicate the almost endless amount of gameplay opportunities this game opened up. And just talk about delivering on gameplay. My goodness, this reboot, what a masterpiece. I'm such a fan of the modern Hitman.
And what was good about it is the way, like, obviously they've moved away from it. They had that episodic release where it would only release episodes, which was kind of annoying. It sort of, I don't know, it kind of gave it that whole, you will play this level over and over again because you've got no other option to do so other than that. So I kind of don't mind that, because with the current Hitman, for me, the way I play those games, unlike yourself, who will play those levels over and over again, for me, I play that through like a normal. I play that game through like a normal sort of single player campaign, and once I've done one run, that's kind of the way I see the way I've done it. I find it real hard to go back and complete that again. Whereas when they released them episodically like this, I actually did go back and play them again because that's all I had to do. So it is kind of a catch-22 is to, like, do you put out the whole game or not? Yes, it's probably a better option for players like myself who want to just sort of see a campaign all the way through. But for players like yourself, and there's plenty of players out there who've got that obsessive compulsive thing to just keep going through those levels and enjoy everything that game. Then this wasn't a bad way to do it, and I think they finally got Hitman back to us where, it was back at its best.
Yeah, they've reset it, and obviously Hitman 3, they've taken what they nailed in 2016. It's just been ultra refined at this point. If you haven't played Hitman 3 and the Hitman 1 and 2 from 2016 and 2018, I want to say, games, they're all available in Hitman 3. They've all been given the Hitman 3 extra tweaks. Just a fantastic series, and yes, this one kicked it all off and just certainly over-delivered on what I was expecting. Next up, Final Fantasy 15, Steve.
Well, but quickly before Final Fantasy, I was going to say, I really hope, because we're speaking about Hitman developers, IO Interactive, I really hope at Summer Games Fest June we see something on their James Bond game. That's all I want to say.
Oh, yes, please, sign me up. I would rather not see it because I think it's so far away, but I would love to know more. Like, I don't think we're going to see it before, 2024 probably at this point. They can stay quiet on it until 2024, but I am keen for news.
For a CG trailer just with that theme song, that's all I need to say.
Yep, I'll totally take it. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't complain. But as I was saying, sorry, Hitman 3 is awesome, but Final Fantasy 15, Steve.
Oh, again, I'm not a massive Final Fantasy fan. Like, I'm not going to come out here and say, yep, I'm a massive fan of the series. I played 7 back in the day when it was the best game of all time, as some people say, and never finished it. Really enjoyed the remake, but for some reason, I really found myself enjoying Final Fantasy 15. Like, I really enjoyed the road trip style thing to it, and I 100% of this game.
Wow!
I've got the gaming certificate that it gives you, and a photo you can do it to prove. But I got grinded all my characters up to 100% or whatever it is you had to do, all their 100% skills.
Wow.
Did everything you could possibly do with this game. I did not expect to do that. I just really enjoy this game. I love the bosses. I love the grand scale of the whole thing. Like, I even did this ridiculous thing you've got to do to be able to, I don't know whether it was to get whether it was just for a trophy or whether it was to get your car to fly, but I'm pretty sure you needed your car to fly already to be able to land at this space to do this completely ridiculous challenge inside this thing that was nothing like the game ever had, all this platforming and stuff. Be absolutely screwed. And it is some of the hardest platforming. I, even with a walkthrough, found this thing really hard to do, and that was just to get a trophy. And I think it was to unlock some kind of gear or something that's kind of inconsequential to the game itself, but you just to get through it. It was Dark Souls hard, if not more. It was ridiculous. I've never done anything like it in gaming. I'd completely forgotten that I did it until we started talking about it right now. And even thinking back on it now, I'm like, I can't believe I did that.
That's awesome.
But I love this game. It's kind of getting me excited for Final Fantasy 16, which I think we're going to start seeing more on, and I believe we may even see this year now. So if we can go back to sort of something like this, I'm really excited because this was a surprise packet for me. I'm not sure if you played it or anything.
I think I put about 5-6 hours into it. I got into the I don't know. I got into a beer and then I got off. So I saw a few of the locations, but fell off it pretty quick.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And I think a lot of people will have if you're not in. I'm not really into Final Fantasy for some reason. Just enjoy the characters, the aesthetic. I enjoyed the combat, the way they sort of worked that in. It wasn't sort of turn based, but I had this. Yeah, I don't know. It twigged with me, and I'm sure it twigged with a lot of other people. But
definitely,
this was a massive surprise to me. I was definitely didn't expect to like as much as I did, and B expect to borderline 100% the game.
And now, if I'm remembering correctly, Steve, I believe anyone with a PS5 has access to this game through whatever that collection's called, the PlayStation Collection. Is that right?
Yeah, I think you do, yeah.
Because I was just thinking I should play this at some point, but I don't own it. But then I'm like, I think it's in that PlayStation Collection for anyone with a PlayStation 5, so maybe I can get back to it at some point. I'm excited now. You've put it on my list of potentials for the upcoming gaming lull. All right, though, next up in the standoff is Sleeping Dogs, Steve. Now, this was a treat to behold.
This was a treat. This was the spiritual successor, which I think was initially going to be next true crime game, which I enjoyed.
That's right. Yeah.
Were as well. And again, it was one of those I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. Obviously, I think it came around. Was it to San Andreas and stuff?
I think it was a bit later than that, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was after that. So I think it sort of had that to live up to, but it did something completely different. It had, as I spoke before, it had like kind of that free flow combat, but it was a bit more technical. You could go to dojos and learn combo. Really cool system where you're obviously playing an undercover cop, but you would go and do police missions. You'd go and do triad missions as, the triad, you'd work the two, systems against each other and stuff like that. And had a really cool story and had some really cool mechanics with driving where you could ridiculous leap out of your vehicle into another vehicle.
But shout out to driving on the right side of the road in a game finally.
Yes. No, it's actually kind of weird. Like you find yourself playing this game, and you still find yourself hugging that left side, the wrong side of the road, because we're so ingrained in playing Grand Theft Auto that it just feels weird to be on the right side of the road / the left side of the road. It's very strange, and obviously it leaned away from the gun combat. It does have some stuff in there, but the hand-to-hand combat in this game was awesome. I thought the story was awesome. The setting was awesome. It had really cool collectibles and unlockables and costumes, and
Though it wasn't the first game at the time, it was a standout for the amount of environmental interactions you could have to finish the fight. Those finishes into the air conditioners and fans and all sorts of things. Oh, it was fantastic.
Yeah, and they were brutal, absolutely brutal.
They really were. It was really good.
Do them, like just finding everything in the environment to try and get those finishes on was just so much fun. I can't remember a game in recent times that's actually done anything similar to this game in terms of its combat.
Sifu, I think, had a bit of environmental interactions, but you're right. It was nowhere near as good as Sleeping Dogs. They are the high watermark.
Yeah, I would love to see a sequel to this game brought out this day.
Definitely.
If you could sort of meld that combat of Sifu into an open world action game like this, it's got a whole bunch more story and stuff to it. I think that could be an absolutely amazing game.
Sign me up. I love the sound of it. Next up is Returnal, and boy, did it deliver. Game of the year last year for those not keeping score.
Game of the year. I mean, it may not win this only because I do trust Housemarque. So it's not like it was better than we expected. I just don't.
It was better than I expected.
As much of it as we did. It's definitely better than we expected. I don't think we ever both expected to play this game as much as to platinum it level. I think initially we'd say we probably wouldn't have even finished it.
No,
platinum it. Totally. It was so hard, but it was such a good experience that you couldn't not play this game all the way through. And then when you finished it, it was just you just wanted to keep playing it because it was just so good. And I mean, I think where it comes from, where it was better than expected, is that Housemarque's never done anything like this. They've always been, what's it called? Bullet
2D arcade,
2D. And to nail the third-person action genre like they did with the roguelite stuff, the way they did was just incredible. So, obviously, watching the trailers before the game came out, we were like, okay, this looks good.
Yeah, but what does it all mean?
What does it all mean? And then we played it, and it was just an absolutely incredible experience. We've spoken about this game at length on many episodes. It got game last year, but what a game.
What a game. What an over-delivering. It was fantastic. All right, the final one this week. Speaking of games that just really over-delivered on their premise. Beat Saber, personal favourite of mine. My goodness. I always thought, swinging a lightsaber around would be fun, and you look at it and you go, oh, yeah, that'd be fun, but my goodness, the feel, Steve, when you finally go hands-on with Beat Saber.
Oh, I know. That was the thing. Like, you look at it and go, okay, it's just a gimmick. Yeah, you're swinging lightsabers around. That could be all it is, but it's not till you've got the headset on, the beat's flowing, your hands are flowing, the sweat's flowing, that you just absolutely fall with this game. And I have not seen, I could probably count on one hand how many games my wife liked or has played, but this is probably up there as one of her favourite, if not the favourite for hers to play, up there with probably Mario Kart.
Oh, it's quality. It's quality. But, Steve, as we always have to do with the standoff, we have to pick a winner, mate. Who this week do you think is left standing?
Oh, so the games that were way better than we expected them to be. So we're going to look at that. Way better than we expected it to be. For me, I'm looking towards the middle of the list, and I'm probably going to go with Batman Arkham Asylum as to way better than what we thought it was going to be.
Quality. I'm right there with you, mate. I'm looking for the Batman tab and I've auto-played off it, but we found it again. Yes, mate, I agree. This week's winner, it was always going to be good, but my goodness, Arkham Asylum, it blew us away. It far exceeded expectations, and we were expecting a lot going in. But you're right, man. This has to be this week's winner.
Love it.
Absolutely love a legitimate, awesome win for Batman right here on the standoff. And Steve, that, of course, brings us to segment 4, audience interrogation. My friend, what has been happening in that YouTube chat?
In that, Sean Games is there. He also says he's on duty. That's good to see.
Oh, perfect.
We've got The Wok, and he says, I wonder if Troy remembers me.
The Wok. Oh, vaguely, yes. Hi, The Wok. How you doing?
And looking like chat, like my chat's glitching out a bit, but I can't see much else in there, Troy. Have you got any questions from Discord this week?
Oh, you know what? I did have a question from Discord. Allow me to duck, weave, and roll. What have we got? Discord. The question from Discord, and I've failed to grab the asker's name. My apologies, but we do have a Discord server in each and every video on the Geek Aloud channel. If you expand it out, there's the link to join in. So everyone's welcome. Come on in there. The question from Discord this week is, do we think the Summer Games Fest, Steve, will include any looks at PSVR 2?
Yes. I think we will see VR2. I think we'll see a few games for it. Definitely, I think now's the time. I think we had that leak of all the controller and headset. I think it'd be mad not to show it.
Very good. Now, this wasn't asked, but I'll add it as an additional question. Steve, how do you reckon our likelihood is of getting a release date in this calendar year?
It'll be out before Christmas, Troy.
And announced at Summer Games Fest, you're saying?
I reckon we'll get a date, and I reckon we're getting it Christmas. I think this thing's probably been in development longer than we think. I reckon now's the time. PS5s are a bit easier to get, and I think they'll be easy to get towards the end of the year. And I think we'll start seeing these things trickle out around Christmas time, because I don't know when they'll release it otherwise. Like, you pushed it early next year, and we've got a lot of game releases coming out. It gets sort of muddled in there. So I think maybe you see it before the end of the year, and that could maybe tide us over for the fact that God of War probably won't release this year.
Oof, I think you could lock that in. I like the optimism, Steve. I certainly hope you're right. It would be awesome to see PSVR 2 with a release date at Summer Games Fest. We'll have to keep our eyes out. And, of course, if it does happen, you can be sure we're talking about it here on the Gaming Enforcement Agency. But this will do it for episode, I believe we're on episode 28 this week. Steve, mate, thank you very much. It's been a fantastic ep, mate. Good work.
No worries, mate. My thing says episode 29, so mate, we're pushing it. We're pushing that 30, so we know what 30 means. That means our arthritis starts kicking in after
that. Confirmed, arthritis at 30. I love it, but that is going to do it for this week on the Gaming Enforcement Agency. I am off duty. Steve, thank you very much, my friend. See you next week.
Unky Dunky off duty. See you next week.
Thanks very much, guys. What else can you do with Geek Aloud? Like it, subscribe it.
Oh, that was luck. Hey, that's something.
love everything about it. Ooh.
Fire express.
Old Uncle Donkey.
Auntie Donkey.